Thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Keep my head up when I act, head up, that's a fact. Never looking back, I'ma keep myself on track. Keep my head up, staying strong, always moving on. Feel I don't belong, tell my thoughts to move along. Push myself to be the best, die with no regrets. Live with every breath, see my message start to spread. And I had so many dreams, then you hit your teens. Life ain't really what it seems, try to find out what it means. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of being screwed, feel my own adrenaline. Yeah, I do just what I do, and I hope you let me in, yeah. I'm grateful, oh yeah, able, oh yeah, I'm stable, oh yeah, no label, oh yeah, you know me, I have only a path, I'm lonely, but damn, I'm going to win. I don't want no fake love, I want the real stuff. Everybody listen up, cause I'll only say it once. I'm gonna show you all the path, if you want it bad. I'm gonna show you where it's at, yeah, how you can get it back. Yeah, cause I ain't never done, I'll be number one.
Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, depending on where you are. I think most of you are in the States, so good morning. Hope you're doing great. Happy Saturday. I didn't realize I was still on reverb. Hope you guys are doing well. It's actually snowing here a little bit, but it's just these last little glimpses of winter that are trying to creep through as we move into a nicer climate, a more tolerable fucking climate. Can't wait. Was out doing a run yesterday. You guys saw the content on YouTube. The last video that we launched was me out there running. I do those every other day in the spring and summer. Yeah, and it's just a necessary. It's like when I need to go to the gym at 10, 11 a.m., I want to continue building my physique, and I like lifting weights to an extent, but it's mostly because my brain is restless, and it's just that time. I do a lot of work from like 6:15 a.m. to about 11 a.m. It's really the bulk of my work throughout the day. I do work in like little spurts throughout the rest of the day, but that beginning period of work really gets me. It just builds up a stress level of a lot of different thoughts and anxieties around one thing or the other, right? Just kind of work, and then going to the gym or running just solves it completely. So excited to do that a lot more as we get into nicer weather. It's going to be fucking awesome. As we get people in here, let's talk about where I'm at with this cycle that I'm running. Look, it's a baby cycle. I wouldn't even really consider it a cycle. At this point, it's 150 milligrams testosterone enanthate every 3.5 days. So it's just 300 milligrams a week of test. That's really it. It's been about 2 weeks so far. I feel fucking phenomenal. In the beginning, I probably had a night or two where it was a little harder to go to sleep, but that always passes for me personally. And now I feel great. I don't have any side effects to date. Blood pressure is still great. But again, 300 milligrams to me, just want to make it clear. I've got a couple comments from people that are like, well, you've been on like loads of androgens or gear and you're not as big as you should. First of all, I haven't. I've actually been on strictly TRT. Like that's like in my face. For the duration of time that I've been on testosterone, I've been on TRT doses. I went on one cycle. Yeah, 500 milligrams a test. And apparently to some people, I haven't grown at all. So let me just give you a little bit of perspective. This was me before touching, high doses of testosterone. That's just TRT. You could see how thin I was. Lean, sure. I had a good chest, but I was basically thin. My shoulders were a lot thinner than they are now, just to give people actual fucking perspective. For those few haters, admittedly, it's just a few weirdos in the comments that are like, you haven't gained a fucking pound. Actually, I'm 180. I was 165 when I started. But what I ultimately like to look like doing mild cycles. I mean, 500 is really not a lot. A gram is, but 300 is not. I actually clear test very quickly. I've got total testosterone on my trough. I'm waiting for those results to see exactly where I'm clearing this testosterone and where the trough is. I think those data points are very fucking important. But what I like to look like is not big, like huge and like fucking bulky. I can't even eat that much. My digestion doesn't love it. But what I like to look like is like this. This was my peak at the last cycle. That was as lean as I was able to get. I really had to kind of diet down to get there. That's how I like to look, if I'm going to run a testosterone cycle. And that's kind of where I'm headed back to. Again, here's another one. I just like that clean cut look, but also with some mass, but not like a bulky freak. I'm not Sam Sulik. I'm not Vigorous Steve. I'm not Chase Irons, nor do I want to be those people in these regards. I generally like looking big enough, but really fucking lean. I'm a runner, and so it's actually hard for me to keep mass on. This is another thing that, some of you few haters who say I've gained no mass. It's actually difficult for me when I run, because I'm catabolic for certain times there. And then that's kind of one of the last pictures of the middle of the last cycle. That's kind of generally what I like to look like. So that's the progress so far. I've been feeling fucking amazing. And I'm just going to stay at 300. I'm just going to stay at basically what I would consider sports TRT for now. Some people would consider it a cycle. I would consider it, if it is a cycle, a very low level cycle. I mean, it's just above TRT. Just above TRT. So that's the update on that. Let's talk about testosterone enanthate for a while. Back on that, I recognize how fucking awesome it can be. Cypionate, I think, is largely trash. I think that you can make better esters work better, specifically enanthate and also prop and cream. But look, testosterone enanthate is like the next best thing. It's honestly in the middle. For people that have a hard time on prop, like the estrogen goes too high, but then your testosterone and estradiol kind of drop as you trough, and it's hard for you to find that balance, and it's just not working out, and it causes extra hair loss because it can prop, because there's a lot of DHT and free test. Testosterone enanthate is kind of just a perfect middle ground. Now, the problem that people have and the mistake that people make is to microdose these long esters. I rarely suggest it. I just think there's so many other better ways. Like if you're one of those individuals who can tolerate sub-Q daily injections and it works for you, like totally fine. Generally speaking, though, you're going to find if you study this, like I've seen it in coaching, so to me it's already cemented into my brain. But if you study this on the testosterone subreddit, even the TRT subreddit, and just go have a gander at like the search phrase, less frequent or, once a week kind of thing, you're going to see people that are injecting once a week testosterone enanthate or testosterone cypionate. And then the moment that they go to every other day, or even every 3.5 days, for some of these people, their libido vanishes. Now, there's a lot of reasons for this, and I've broken this down. Number one, estrogen doesn't stay constantly elevated and constantly saturating. Whatever the serum says is somewhat irrelevant to this whole dynamic of estrogen rising, and that causing release of prolactin from the lactotropes as it's rising, and doing whatever other negative things that it might do for someone's erection specifically as it's rising. And estradiol at a steadier state and then dropping. There's a big difference between those two states. And generally speaking, as long as there's sufficient androgens, estrogen can peak, but then it starts troughing, and the sexual system just seems to work better that way. Now, that estrogen can still be 65 in the case of higher dose, long ester, but if it's not going like this all the time, it's better. It just seems better for the sexual system. At the same time, daily microinjections for some people just doesn't give them enough test. They could be 1,000, 1,200 or something as they build up, but they're not getting a bolus at once. Like my protocol right now of 150 every 3.5 days, getting 150 fucking milligrams each injection, dude. I mean, that's a peak. You know how much different of a peak that is compared to 25 milligrams sub-Q daily? I mean, it's fucking night and day, dude. And I feel that peak. It's fucking phenomenal. And I feel great up until the 3.5 day point, at which point I start to trough personally, and that's kind of where I'm at. So Testosterone enanthate is meant to be injected less frequently. If you could make sub-Q or daily or every other day work for you, great. If you can't and your libido is suffering, go to 3.5 days, every 3.5 days until you build up sufficient amount of testosterone, and then try once a week, or once every 5 or 6 days. You're going to have a lot better of a time. All right, let's get into questions and fucking get this party going. Let's get this show on the road, brotheresses. Zach's got a question. What's the benefit of smaller daily HCG injections? A little less stimulation of the Leydig cell aromatization. That's really the benefit of that. Yeah. It doesn't seem to affect me negatively, so it's going to be person dependent. Like I can inject 1,000 IU of HCG and it really doesn't bother me. Maybe initially if I'm used to 250 IU every day or every other day, that 1,000 IU of HCG will give me anxiety for about a day. And then that kind of just tapers off and then I'm fine. But the benefits are for people that have those sorts of issues ongoingly with HCG, just to use daily injections. I also think that there's probably a little bit less of a progestogenic effect with lower amounts of HCG injected at once versus bolus amounts of HCG injected at once. So at the same time, for those sensitive to estradiol, where, based on where your test is, your estrogen needs to be kind of lower, then basically microdosing HCG is going to help you a lot in that arena. David says, feeling great. Don't worry about it. I think that's in response to my cycle talk. My very, very baby cycle talk. Yeah, we'll see in about 3 months kind of where my physique is. Again, I'm ultimately looking to kind of get back to my peak physique before, which is right around here. That's me being super lean, and I certainly, was holding a lot of muscle. I put on about 15 pounds since the last cycle. So pretty happy about that, man. And we'll see what happens here. Now, Jordan G. Unit makes a great point. This is something I'm just not willing to do. In order to have bodybuilder-like gains, you have to eat a ton of food. And, and a lot of gear. The thing about, first of all, my digestion has a really difficult time. It always has, like since I can remember. Dealing with a lot of food at once, so I'm not a huge fan of stuffing my face. I've never been. I just don't like it. Secondarily, the heavier I am, the harder it is for me to run. So there are limitations for me regarding cycling, etc. But for sure, like, what the fuck was I going to say? Yeah, you got to eat a lot. And, it's hard to eat clean and a lot. You got to got to go off the wagon a little bit. Going to Arby's and shit. When you ran Proviron and it nuked your hairline, how many weeks did it take for the hair to shed to start? That happens right away with me for Proviron, whether it's 12.5 or 25 or 50. I ran for a brief period. Right away. I'll notice when I look in the mirror in the morning, like the fucking 2 days later, I'll notice just open spots in my hair where it's normally just kind of the hair is thicker without Proviron and it just kind of covers up those spots, but it's like there's spots that are open and then I can physically see hair shedding. The most hair shedding where I would rub my hand through my hair and there'd be hair every time on my hands was high dose prop. That's honestly the worst offender for me personally. I'm talking about 70 milligrams a day with 3 pumps of cream a day. Fucking hybrid protocol. It was insane for my dick though. I mean, I was a walking erection, but my hair was falling out of my fucking head, bros. Didn't love it though. I loved how I felt. Didn't love the hair loss. I'm not interested in going bald or shaving my head. I'm just not interested in that. John Kimball, what's the most average TRT protocol in terms of compounds that would have a guy feeling good and functioning well? Strongest protocol you've seen to resolve PFS? Well, that's 2 questions. First question, most average to have a guy feeling and functioning well would be 120 milligrams of test enanthate every 5 days. Yep. And I probably bolus like 600 IU, 500, 600 IU on that injection and then let it go until the next 5th day. That'd be the most basic protocol. And that's a good fail-safe protocol for people having libido and erection issues. Just go to 120 every 5th day of test enanthate. And that's going to resolve almost definitely. Strongest protocol I've seen it to resolve PFS would be... There's a couple, man. 60 milligrams prop every day. 2 pumps transscrotal cream every day. Was it 250 IU HCG every other day? 25 Proviron a day. Low dose, I think it was 10 to 20 milligrams oral DHT per day. And we're using estradiol enanthate. Yeah, 0.5 milligrams estradiol enanthate every day. Just to give you a fucking idea of what these guys might need. Yeah, that's just bizarre. Like what I theorized was happening with the estradiol. They couldn't get it high enough on the test, whether proviron was in the picture or not. And estradiol via ERB receptor activation does have some influential, it's a reparative effect on penile tissues. It's ERA receptor activation that you don't want, which causes venous occlusive disorders. It leads to venous leakage, and it's hard to determine how the body's going to differentiate between where to send that estradiol. But the estradiol in that case just put that person in the right range, and it was really antithetical to what we thought, or I had thought, that would work for these individuals. But I started getting into having them use estradiol, and it's just sped up recovery a lot, especially dick recovery, just erection function. There are more complex protocols because people require different shit, but that's probably the most complex. I am not taking an AI with tests currently. Nope. Again, at 150 test enanthate every 3.5 days, I clear that test pretty quickly. You know, I clear it. I'm not an ultra rapid metabolizer defined by having multiple copies of certain genes that deal with drug metabolism, but I do metabolize faster than the average person. I was at 1150 on 210 a week. So some people are at 1700 at that. So right now the estrogen is probably between 45 and 65. And that is an okay range for me with what is almost definitely at 1700 to 2000 peak of test right now. So again, that's why I say this really isn't a significant cycle. The moment that erection function specifically gets a little wacky is when I would bring in a low dose of aromasin, and then I just wouldn't touch it for a while. That's probably what's going to have to happen. But I don't know. I've never ran strictly 300 before, so we'll see what happens. Preston, why do most bodybuilders on YouTube swear by injecting long esters every day? Is there a mass building benefit to everyday injections? What I think it's multifold, right? Number one, people will have biases toward their own experience first and foremost. Yeah. You have to try not to do that as a coach or as a YouTuber, but like it happens. I have biases, from my own experiences on shit. And so you'll have people that suggest sub-Q because it works for them, and maybe it works for some of their people, their clients or their YouTube following or whatever. Again, sub-Q does work for people. It's all over the forums. It just doesn't work for everybody. So I think that's one reason why. At the same time, you have to remember with like bodybuilders is that they've been pinning themselves with harpoons for fucking a decade or more. And they have noticeable scar tissue in that regard. Not all of them have been getting 1.5 inch 27 gauge, very, very thin needles, and they were hard to find 10 years ago or whatever. So these guys would rather not continue puncturing their muscles in the same areas they've been for 12 years, like in the glute or something, because the scar tissue develops. So like for them, it's like they want to try to avoid that. And, sub-Q is a way, if they can tolerate sub-Q and it's fine and the sexual system works well, to do that. I think that's probably why, in addition to biases from those individuals that, it just might work for them and all these kinds of things. I think at the same time, aside from bodybuilders, there are people that suggest sub-Q that are merely repeating the gospel because it's popular, and you want to stay away from those people. You want to stay away from anyone who says things that like just to say them to align with what seems to be the newest trend or the socially accepted trend. If I'm in a room and 14 people are saying the color on the screen is blue, but I see it very clearly as being green, I'm not gonna, in the interest of being socially accepted, say that it's blue. I'm gonna be like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? It's fucking green. You got to be that guy. Farmer Rick, thank you, brother. Morning, Rice. So, got my cream. How would you suggest I added this protocol to test E every 5 days? What's your test E protocol? Like, what's the dose every 5 days? And then I think I could give you an answer for that. Quite honestly, I would just start with rubbing 2 pumps, whatever it is, just rub 2 pumps of cream transcrotally every day and then dial in from there. It's going to add some more DHT. It's going to change the balance of test DHT to estradiol. So just be aware of that. If that fucks with things, you have to try to figure out why. On cream, like 3 pumps of cream, it's just enough to have me at about 900 sort of steady state. I peak at like 11 something, and then I just go back down. I think I'm about 670 the next morning. So I'm in that good range, but it really does jack up my DHT in a way, which is like if I use 4 or more pumps of cream at a time, it imbalances DHT to estrogen, meaning I need a little more estrogen. So just be careful of that and start with 2 pumps is what I'd suggest. Hector with the $10 super chat. Thank you, bro. Good morning. What's your current HCG protocol? I'm on 14 milligrams test prop daily. 10 of DHEA, 10 milligrams pregnenolone. I assume this is daily. Gone on HCG 250 IU every other day. Sensation came back. Great. Okay. I would stay exactly where you are. Number one. That's the number one rule in all of this, that if you find something that works really well, just stay right there. Right now, I'm injecting on injection of testosterone enanthate, 500 IU of HCG. That's it. Yeah, so that's every 3.5 days. So it's 1,000 a week, essentially, with 300 a week of testosterone enanthate. That keeps things simple for me. I don't, with bolus injections of HCG, I don't really have problems one way or the other, so 500 IU is really not, all things considered, a lot of HCG to inject, considering fertility protocols are 6,000 to 10,000 IU, and suggested doses or prescribed doses of HCG are in the 5,000 to 10,000 IU range. Not everyone's going to abide by the studies, by the way, on the intratesticular testosterone at the dose threshold of 250 IU every other day. Just because a study says it doesn't mean your body's going to abide by the fucking study. That's absurd. So some people just need more HCG. But I would tell you that if you're doing good where you are, don't change it at all. Yeah, don't change it. Number one, morning boners, sensation is there. It looks like you've got libido. Fucking stay there. Stay there. F money. How long does it take for an AI to peak? It depends on the A. Okay, so a Arimidex 0.5, 24 hours. Yeah, you actually get, I think the literature says something like the max concentration in the blood of the drug is like 2 to 3 hours later. But the max estradiol reduction is 24 to 48 hours. Yeah, within that time period. I don't know if you need it. You have to look at estrogen and look at symptoms. Being symptomatic is the indicator that you might need to mess with estrogen, whether it's raise it or lower. Usually lower it. So, if you took it yesterday, you've already stopped a massive amount of aromatization, and I bet your blood will show a good degree less. Yeah, just to give you some ideas, like on 168 of test a week, split up into every other day intramuscular injections. This is one protocol I ran a long time ago. This is Testipinate, 0.125 milligrams of Arimidex once a week. Took me down 10 points each time. 10 points each time. 0.5? It's a lot of Arimidex. It's going to take you down pretty significantly unless you're a very heavy aromatizer. Okay, Zachary Chase with the $10 super chat. Thank you, brother. Total T is 1262, free T 266, E235, HHBG 41. The labs look good. These labs were taken 4 hours post 3 pumps of cream and 4 days after 250 IU of HCG and 15 of zinc. I feel 7 out of 10. Just want to get to the 10-10 for libido. My advice for you there would be to sometimes zinc, whether it's through some inhibition of 5-alpha reductase or it's through, inhibiting aromatase, can cause libido problems. So the first thing to try would be just remove the zinc and keep everything else the same. Run that for about a week. I'd say give it 2 weeks. If you're on a long ester, for sure. See if that balances out. The second thing you could try is to take the E2 very carefully down to 25, 25, 27, which is a very hard range to keep it in. With that, you'd probably want to look at my Liquidex video where you dissolve Liquidex in a dropper with some distilled water, or better yet, alcohol, clear alcohol like vodka. And then drop a couple drops every, third day or something. So you're getting micro doses to get it down to 27. If that fails, at 1262 tests, you might be one of those individuals that's TDE ratio needs to be a little more in favor of estradiol. So in that case, you would want to, you can only take so much HCG to increase estrogen. You might want to experiment with like 0.2 milligrams of estradiol valerate every other day or every third day to get the estrogen up, and then just see if that helps. So you got to try all things relative to estradiol in this case, is what I would suggest you do. And again, seeing these PFS guys and sexual dysfunction guys, some of whom actually never took finasteride but still have sexual dysfunction, respond to exogenous estradiol is kind of, influencing me a little bit in some of these cases. Like, it's, we talk about over aromatizing, but also people under aromatize. And even if your numbers are at 35 or 40 or whatever, for the ratio for your body, like maybe it needs to be at 50, in which case just having if you have sexual dysfunction at any level, having estradiol in as an exogenous compound to experiment, well, you want to experiment with fucking everything, is a smart idea. So those are that's the order of things that I would do. Gilly G, is there any way to reduce post-injection pain? Usually inject right in my thighs or delts. Pain the next day is quite bad. Well, what ester? If it's prop, that makes sense. Stop injecting in the quads and stop injecting in the delts. Yeah, just inject in the glute. That will reduce and eliminate most of that. How effective is Masteron for stage 1 to 3 gyno? I couldn't really tell you. Never had gyno, never dealt with it. Never had anyone that I was working with that had it or that we were doing something about it. Masteron is treated for, or used rather, for breast cancer via estrogen receptor blockade. So it would be useful. But I think you'd want to reach out to some of the bodybuilders, get on their live streams and ask on their chat that question. David says, putting on muscle as a runner means you're getting ready for the ultras. Now, I was invited to do the Pittsburgh Marathon last year. It's 26 miles. And my answer was like a hard fuck no. For what, bro? Dude, I have ran between 5 to 10 miles during the Army, daily or every other day, and then after the Army for about 5 years. And it's just wearing on your knees and your shins. It's bad enough I have shin splints from the fucking military that have not gone away, but they're largely fine. Yeah, it's just I'm finished running long distances for sure. I'm just over it. We had in my platoon, we had a first lieutenant at the time who was a ranger. So I was a scout, 19 Delta Cav Scout in the U.S. Army. And we had a ranger. We were a specialty platoon. We had a 411 Bravo sniper folks come to attach to our platoon. They went to Iraq with us. So we were at an odd platoon, and then we had an infantry officer, a ranger, named fucking Lieutenant Irwin, now probably Lieutenant Colonel Irwin or Major Irwin, come to our platoon. And even though the PL never, runs PT, it's always like a section sergeant or a staff sergeant or the platoon sergeant. Our platoon leader would run PT sometimes. And he would take us on these things called turkey runs, where he would fucking plot out when in Fort Hood, Texas, now named something else, it was going to rain a lot for fucking hours in a row. And he would get us on those days to go and run 7 to 10 miles in the fucking rain. I'm over that shit, bro. I'm just over it. It was fine back then. It was fine after the Army in my 20s. But I'm over it now. I run 2 to 3 miles max, and that's fucking it, bro. Fuck no to a marathon. You know how much I'd have to eat? Oh, forget it, dude. Orlando, I've been using testosterone cream through Male XLK. They're an okay company. I think they just have cypionating cream. I really don't notice anything. Switching to Defy Medical Cream, they also suggested cypionate 30 milligram injection every day. I should think you should do neither of those. If you're not noticing anything on micro injections or applications of testosterone, get some testosterone enanthate and inject 120 every 5th day. That's what I would do. And, dial in from there. Maybe you need every 3.5 days, 75 to 100 or 120. Maybe you can build up after you steady state in the blood with the enanthate after about 3 weeks to 4 weeks. You can tolerate once a week injections or every 6th day. injections. There you're going to find, and most people having problems on TRT are going to find libido and erections come back. Yeah. Who knew? Like, lo and behold, you just inject the long esters how they're made to be injected, and then everything works better. Who knew? Don't have a lot of opinions on boldenone and EQ. I know that I've seen some pretty horrific side effects with the use of EQ. Mainly it's just crushing estrogen and fucking with people's mood and mental state. What am I doing to keep my hair? I still dermal roll with a 1.5 inch microneedler thing twice a week in the shower till I draw blood. I'm dosing 400 milligrams of tocotrienols every day, so that helps as well. Now that I'm on more tests, I'm sure my hair will start to change in a negative direction at some point, but so far I've been fine. That's all I do though. I have good hair genes, and that's really the answer, in addition to those other things. Jeff. I love how some Jeffs spell their name. Geoff, thanks for the question. Imagine someone like didn't know. Geoff, like it's just a dummy. Is it Geoff? Like the video about Naringen, should it be taken together, separate, or does it matter with Cialis? When I run it, the Naringen at like 1 p.m. and the Tadalafil 5 milligrams at like 3 p.m. I don't want to put them too close together because that has bitten me before, particularly with higher dose Naringen and higher dose Tadalafil, where it lowered my blood pressure too much. You got to be aware of that. At the same time, via the changing in hematocrits, like as well as the thinning of your blood and the optimization of blood flow, you know, the caveat as I gave in that video, in addition to blood pressure problems, is cerebral hypoperfusion, which is where your blood pressure in the brain essentially lowers. Yeah. And your blood flow in your brain lowers to the point where you start getting like hypotensive, kind of intracranial hypotension. You don't want that. So you just got to be careful. I would take it a couple hours before and then run the Tadalafil. It's not going to be a problem for most people. Again, I could run 220 every other day of Naringen and 5 of Cialis every day, and it's fine with a 2 or 3 hour gap between taking them. But if I bump either of them up, especially the Cialis, well, then, you know, I start to feel as if I am hypotensive. Yeah. Clint, do you do a certain gene test to figure out that you metabolize testosterone fast? It's based on blood work. Yeah, it's based on blood work. Yeah, it's based on like my trough on prop, my trough on cream. And I've never run 300 of Enanthate by itself. So I just tested after 2.5 weeks of it. Trough of that 150 was basically the third day leading into the 3.5 day. So I'm definitely curious to see where that is. But every one of my blood results on certain protocols told me that I metabolize tests faster than the average person. Yeah. So even relative to the cycle, it's like 300 milligrams is kind of like maybe 220. It's hard to say. But again, on 210 a week, my levels only went to 1150. A lot of guys will go to 1700 on that much test. So Dream Big had some insomnia issues on TRT. It tried pregnenolone and fixed it. How and why? It probably just interaction with GABA A receptors. That's what we think. That's kind of the common narrative around pregnenolone and TRT and that kind of anxiety thing that might come about during insomnia. I don't take pregnenolone now. I did for a while. I just don't generally need it. And, you know, for me, this doesn't happen. This insomnia thing doesn't happen. In the beginning of this low-level cycle, it started on day 1, I want to say, and then it just went away. That's usually what happens to me. I think they are a sign of neither. They're a sign of like thyroid hormone output being a little increased. But generally speaking, when you're talking to a menopausal woman, it's a low estrogen that can cause night sweats. But I think high estrogen can cause all kinds of fucked up problems. If you're not used to it, then your body just acclimates usually. David, I don't know how to convert to using. I'm sure I could figure it out, or I could quickly do the calculation. But Just use an insulin syringe and do sub-Q if you're running estradiol itself. I think a typical testosterone, estradiol enanthate comes in, I believe, 10 milligrams per milliliter, which would mean that an entire insulin syringe is 10 milligrams. So each 10 mark is 1 milligram. And you go to, the 5 mark and you're at 0.5. You go to the 2 mark, you're at 0.2. That's how you look at that. Good day from Maurizio. Does an Orange powder from bulksupplements.com come with its own measuring spoon? No. But to accurately dose it, you need to get a milligram scale. You can't rely on spoons. Max, can you make a video about decanoate on decanoate? At a once-a-week administration, the libido is real great, but paradoxically, the hair loss is way less. It's super awesome. Interesting. Yeah, that shit, there's something really good about these really long-acting esters for people. And I think it's just real. First of all, you inject a lot of that at once, whether it's once a week or otherwise. So you got a lot of tests, and you just the tissue saturation of androgens is very, 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 very consistent. And so there must be something to say that's good about that. But you're not alone there. Like, they'll have one client that's having sexual issues, and we're running prop at the moment and some other things, and we're getting it resolved. But like, prior to all this, he lived in a different country where LIBIDO was the only thing available, and that worked fine. So, some people are going to find, fucking LIBIDO will work better than anything, because their body just likes real steady and long-acting testosterone, And problem with that is you can't really get it from UGLs. It's a bit of a pain in the butt. Jordan G Unit, thank you, brother, for the super chat. Appreciate that. As I mentioned last week, I've switched from Cypionate to Prop 25 daily. What should I expect as far as aromatization of E2s? It's all over the place. I'll tell you that on 70 of Prop a day, my E2 was 92. Yeah, I had to lower it at that point. So just something to consider. At 25 of Prop a day, I really don't think you're going to have a problem unless you're significantly overweight and drink a lot, which I don't think you do either of those. I think it's going to be, it's definitely going to be less. I couldn't sustain on 25 a prop a day because estrogen's too low. I start pissing out all my water, and it's the low estrogen state, and it's miserable. So it's not going to be high. Yeah, I can tell you that. It might be over range, but I don't, it's going to trough back down. It's not going to stay over range. It's going to be pretty good. Jets generally, this is why for people, it's one of the reasons people take prop and have such a better time, is because you're aromatizing less consistently. So you might have a peak in estradiol, but it's just going to go back down. You clear it out of your system. Secondarily, your increases in T and DHT are substantial compared to long esters of the same dose. So I think you're going to be just fine, but you need to run those labs, man. Black Mesa, do I think the real problem with daily dosing of Enanthate is that guys just aren't going high enough to get the benefits? I think it's it's multifold. Number one, yes. Like, if you're doing 25 milligrams a day, you're never going to peak to 1700, which might be what your body needs in terms of every metabolite conversion and test to get the benefits of sexual function with it. Secondarily, most people that are doing daily injections don't want to pin themselves in the muscle, so they're doing sub-Q, which is extravascular tissue, which means the uptake is not only slower, but it's fucking variable. You don't even know if it's going to uptake correctly, and it doesn't for some people. Thirdly, the problem is that sometimes, even with pharma-grade testosterone enanthate, people can do sub-Q injections correctly and end up still with welts that last 7 to 14 days and eventually turn to pus because it's mildly infected inside. I've seen this fucking too. Whereas that never happens when you inject into the muscle. Just saying, just over here saying that, you don't get welts and fucking warm red welts, which are pushing, they're usually fine and they go away, but you're pushing the potential to have to go to the fucking hospital to get it drained. That shit never happens on intramuscular injections, brothers. It just doesn't happen, man. So I think it's multifold. It's multifold. Along with it's like it. I'll tell you what. I have a guy that just came to me, and I just spoke to him yesterday or the day before. Just a one-off consult. This guy has been on various protocols, and his most recent one was sub-Q Cypionate 100 a week. It's not a lot of testosterone. So whatever that is, 15 milligrams a day. His fucking estrogen was higher than on previous like higher dose intramuscular, less frequent injection. His estrogen was fucking higher. So when these idiots tell you sub-Q equals less estrogen, it's not true. It's not true. You might have less of a peak, but estrogen doesn't work like, oh, you inject that day and then it kind of gets up to its steady state and the next day it just magically goes down. Think of like a water bottle, and if it's at the top with the water, and then you just keep putting a little bit of water on top each day. And maybe there's a small hole in the bottom where a little bit is coming out. What do you think's eventually going to happen? The water bottle is going to fucking overflow with water. This is the kind of shit that happens to some people on sub-Q daily injections. Their estrogen just fucking overflows, bro. Never get a break, never get a trough. Troughing and peaking with estradiol seems to just be better for sexual function. And I think some of that has to do with the peak in SHBG via the peak in estradiol, and then the trough of estradiol, it not constantly sticking around. So yeah, you just have to take those people that are, again, socially acceptable norms. They want to be on board with those things to be socially accepted. If you put me in a room with 15 people and there's a screen, and on that screen is the color green, and these 14 other people are saying it's blue, I'm going to be like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? It's green. It's green. I don't need to be socially accepted. I need to be right. And you should want to be too. Brother. Jay Gotch, what's, Ryan, what do you think? What do you like about prop versus cream? Well, the differences, right? So prop feels more dopaminergic to me. Like it kind of feels like modafinil a little bit, or like a good dopamine nootropic. So I like it in that regard. Taking 50 milligrams a day, it's kind of like 40 to 50, 45 plus is where I'm at. I feel happier, motivated. I'm just like, whoo, I'm just fucking feeling awesome. So it's more dopaminergic in that regard. It hits quicker and then it troughs. And I like the trough. My body likes troughs. I'm not a steady state kind of guy. My body doesn't really love it. I like troughs. And so prop troughs. At the same time, you can go pretty high in doses and not run into hematocrit problems or otherwise problems. You can go pretty high in doses of prop and not have any bloat. It's like fucking crazy. You just look lean as shit. And you're still strong and anabolic as long as the dose is high enough. And so that's that. Cream, though peaks fast, though is dopaminergic, though is energy inducing, though induces a lot of DHT, though is pretty easy with a obvious risk of transference, and that you can't take a shower for 4 hours after. Cream is more steady state. It is. Cream is a much more of a steady state. Like you'll peak pretty quickly, hour 5, and then DHT is a couple hours behind in terms of peak. Estradiol is right around the DHT peak. And then though it kind of stays pretty elevated, after which you get a decline, but it's not a sharp decline. Yeah, so it's a lot more steady state. Those are the differences. Between the two of them, I think I feel good on 3 pumps of cream solely. And sexual function works really good, and everything's just good on that. It's a good TRT for me. With prop, it's at least 45 milligrams a day. I like that. I liked 70 milligrams a day better, frankly. But I can't. It's hard to say. I think you can make them both work. If I were to look at the both of them and be like, what do I like more? Probably prop by like a 0.5 percentage point or something. Yeah, I just like prop. Biscup. Thanks for the super chat, friend. Thyroid blood's in range, but have symptoms, so would like to short-term experiment with T3. Any advice? Would you add T4? I think that plenty of people, including, my effective girlfriend. I mean, there's a girl that I'm dating that I'm not dating anyone else. Have subclinical hypothyroidism. Their numbers look fine, but they have every fucking symptom of thyroid problem. So, you're probably one of those people. You're probably one of those people. It's not far-fetched at all. And I don't know what the physiology is there. Like, it's just that, for your body, for thyroid, for energy and body temperature regulation to be sufficient, you need higher levels of thyroid hormone output, and free thyroid hormones than whatever in range numbers you have now are. So that's just like, it happens all the time. I think that you should consult a doctor on this. Yeah. Is what I would suggest you do. But a doctor on which one to take, and ultimately probably consult Reddit, etc. Maybe the hypothyroid subreddit would be a good idea, because some people are going to need a combination of both of these things, and some people will do fine with one of them. Yeah, I'm not a huge, I've never in any protocol, with the exception of a couple people we need to increase SHBG, put thyroid hormones in a protocol. So I really would be the person to ask about it. These things are, might increase DHT marginally. They're not very effective though. John Kimball, is it possible to maintain libido on blast cycle in all cases, or for some people is the heightened stimulation too much, even if all the metabolites are in range? Yeah, sure. I have great libido on a mild cycle right now. Oh, it's fucking amazing, actually. And erections are still fine. My libido was profound on 500 milligrams a week of test Enanthate. I was doing every other day injections of 150, I think, 560 a week. It was really great for the first 3-4 weeks, and then it got worse. I had to lower estrogen 20 points, and then it was back to fine again. So yes, as long as you're managing estrogen, or where your estrogen needs to be. If you're not if you're a substantial under aromatizer, you might need to take more estrogen. Or if you're not, but like you're just one of those people, like these people exist, where they need a little more estrogen and they're just not making enough per how high their testosterone is going. They're metabolizing the test really quickly, or the SHBG is low, so they're clearing it and turning it into testosterone glucuronidide, which is getting urinated out. In those cases, you might need a little more estrogen or something. Yeah. But yeah, it's entirely possible. I mean, some people, like, based on the way that their body metabolizes testosterone, they go on cycles and their libido and erections are like better than TRT, and they don't take AIs or anything. I mean, those are lucky fucking motherfuckers, bro. Right now, I'm on 500 IU-HCG every 3.5 days and 150 tests, Enanthate every 3.5 days, and my libidos are really good. So am I lucky? Well, we'll see. We'll see in about 4 weeks how lucky I really am. We'll see where this goes. But I'm almost positive I'll have to modify something. Hams, I've been on 250 milligrams test E 2 times a week. Okay, that is a mid-level cycle. Unless you're doing 125 each injection. Switch to prop 40 milligrams a day, and erections are way better. Not surprising. Not surprising, brother. Hits you quicker. Again, less estrogen sticks around. You get a good peak of estradiol, which could probably help SHBG transport androgens to tissues better. Not surprising, bro. This stuff happens all the time. Drew. Suggestions for first time using cream. 2 clicks in the AM and 1 in the PM. Been on test sip 160 a week, split in 2, feel fine. I would say don't change anything. If you feel fine and sexual function is good, don't use cream. Don't use cream. I'm always going to give that advice, man. If things are good at the moment, don't change them. Cream is a shiny object. That's all, right? Because you've heard me talk about it and other people talk about it. And it can be really good. Really good. But if you feel great and sexual function's good, don't change a thing. Don't change a thing. If you are to change something, find my video done in the last month titled something to the effect of like the best dose of testosterone cream, and follow that protocol. Follow those instructions. Just use the search function on our channel. David, what are the typical doses of estradiol valerate that I would have someone start with? 0.1 or 0.2 milligrams every other day. Yeah, I saw the TRT dead video. That's we're not talking about any of this in micrograms. You talk about it in milligrams if you would. That guy's running a non-aromatizable androgen, with estrogen to really control estrogen. If you want to really control estrogen, I wouldn't suggest doing what he's doing because he's running trenbolone, and decadurabolin with then exogenous estradiol. I'd run like Primo and exogenous estradiol if I were you. Maybe Deca, but you probably have to use some cabergoline for that. But 0.1 or 0.2, I've had to use as high as 0.5 every other day. It's a lot of estrogen, but it just was what worked in that case. So that's kind of it. Hams, I do think prop is fine long term. Yeah, you're just going to clear it out. You're just clearing it out of the depot. 7 injections a week. Plenty of people do that for decades. It's fine. It's fine, man. Use the thinner gauge needle. On Amazon, there are 1.5 inch 27 gauge needles. They're very fucking thin. I mean, they're like super thin. But they're 1.5 inch, 1.5 inches. So, you get the depth so that you can not have PIP if you're injecting in the glute with prop. Black Mesa aromatizes more on prop. Well, again, it's not that it varies person to person. Everybody aromatizes more on prop, but you don't stay at that level of estradiol. It goes right back down. Everybody aromatizes higher on prop. You get a peak. It goes like this. You get a peak, and then you get, subsequent peak in estradiol, quicker, faster, and higher. Then it comes back down. Yeah, that's sort of the bottom line. And where the estrogen ends up is more reasonable, seemingly, than other esters. At the same time, it all really depends on how a lot of this, when did you test this? Because if it was at the peak of testosterone, then yeah, that estrogen's going to peak for sure. If you tested the next day on trough, it's going to be lower. Everything's going to be lower. So you have to give that a shot so that you can be accurate in your own understanding of your situation and not have errors in attribution, like, prop aromatizes more generally. What does that mean? At what point is it aromatizing more and at what point is it lower? That you have to look at. I've never tried enclomiphene, never would, unless for some health reason or something I had to PCT. But I think I would probably do other things for that. CN is on TRT with estrogen levels of 0. You have a polymorphism in the aromatase enzyme genes. That's probably what's at play here. If you feel like you got to take estradiol, I mean, if you're on TRT and estrogen levels are below 5 picograms per milliliter, you have to take estradiol. That is a problem. No, CAB isn't dopamine and won't replenish dopamine. All it does is agonize dopamine D2 receptors and serotonin 5-HT2B, which is not good. I think there's some D1 receptor activation, or maybe that's bromocriptine. But no, it's not raw dopamine. The only thing you can take that's raw dopamine is mucuna purines. That's just going to help. That's just one of the, building blocks to actual dopamine. You can take tyrosine, but I think mucuna is better for that. So Preston got an infection on sub-Q Test D, 300 milligrams per milliliter. This is not uncommon. This is another reason. Some people can tolerate a lot of sub-Q tests, like, not many people, but there are individuals who can who can dose a lot of sub-Q at once test and they're fine. But I've seen welts. I've never had a guy have to go to the hospital, but it's been close. In this case, Preston had to take antibiotics because probably the fucking site got infected. Yeah. And maybe 200 milligrams per milliliter will be better, but at the same time, it's possible that, you need to switch whoever, if that's UGL test, that tends to cause this problem more via some of the solvents and shit they use. But otherwise, just inject it how it's meant to be injected, and the problem gets resolved usually. Clint, with microdosing tests, Enanthate, have you or any of your clients experienced too much of a stimulation of the CNS? Feeling cranked, yet tired, and a meh libido? Well, some people, it's fucking so paradoxical, but because some individuals will have higher levels of everything on sub-Q. What's that about? Maybe they end up, because it's a slower release, just having more convert, and it never, again, like this whole cup analogy, cup of water, you never trough on this. So, you can't think that if you have a cup of full water and you keep adding a little bit of water, and even some very little minute amount is coming out of the bottom via glucuronidation and clearance of hormones, you can't think that the water's never going to overflow. So in this case, the water is probably just overflowing. I don't in practice agree with, because I see it. I don't ideologically agree with. I don't intellectually. I have a big headache with the idea of sub-Q daily injections of long chain testosterone esters. I'm just, you're not mimicking diurnal fucking rhythm, by the way. These people are, you might mimicking again. No, you're not. No, you are not. No, you're not. Prove it. You're not. You're not at all. You're doing something real fucking different. Now, if you're pretty new to testosterone, meaning, 6 months, then this kind of shit will go away. Also, what's your dose? What's that dose? Problems with sub-Q long esters, do it intramuscular, do it less frequently, your problems will be resolved. Zachary, if you had to come off TRT for whatever reason, like an apocalypse, what would my personal PCT be? Frankly, I would want to use high-dose HCG, and then I would gradually lower the dose until nothing and deal with some of the side effects. Because I don't want to block estrogen receptors, which is what you do on SERMs. That'd be my PCT, to be honest with you. I think, I guess that would be it. And then I would get a hold of a bunch of supplements, like pine pollen and Cistanche, Fedosia agrestis, and I would just, try to boost my natural tests to the greatest extent possible with those. That's what I would do. But it's just being on TRT and cycles and shit. Like, I just don't think I would even be able to sustain on lower levels anymore. Through various experiments of going on lower doses, like over the years, I felt like shit, man. Totally crappy. Black mass attested prop at the trough. I believe that has to do with the rate my body metabolizes and clears estrogen, which can definitely vary between individuals. Well, of course it can. You're saying it as if you're trying to make the point that it can vary. Everybody knows that. Of course, I've never said it otherwise. Yeah, people do clear less, and that has to do with glucuronidation. Maybe calcium D-glucarate would be useful for you, bro. Okay, you're doing intramuscular injections. Yeah, you definitely got to specify. I think that if you're new to TRT, this goes away. At the same time, I can't really give you any advice if I don't have your dose or your frequency. Levi, hey Ryan, for PFS, is test prop a good option? Yeah, I think it's a good option. Responded well to Proviron, but already had high LDL. Don't want to go on statins. Look into tacotrienols. They have the same mechanism of statins, and they're safer. They're just a little more mild than statins in that regard, but should really help with lipids. Yeah, I've been taking them, I don't know, almost a year now. Dude, and look, lately I've been on just 3 pumps of cream. I just got back on basically sports TRT, 300 milligrams a week. But I was on a 4-month cycle of 560. My lipids did go up, but after getting off cycle and taking tacotrienols, my HDL went up. Okay? That never happens. It's 48. It was 44 last check. My LDL from, 110 on cycle to 94 after cycle to 84 now. Tacotrienols, bro. Really fucking powerful. I think naringin does have some cholesterol modifying properties to it as well, which is useful. And same thing with a compound called D-limonene. No one talks about this, but it's really fucking effective. D-limonene. Regarding PFS, prop is a great option. It hits you quicker. Everything peaks quicker. You get more DHT. These are the things you need. And you're going to get a peak of estradiol with it. That might be beneficial for vascular injury, which is almost definitely present in the male organ. So yes, I think it's a great option. But don't take Proviron with no test. Yeah, you don't. You need tests. You need to aromatize some to estradiol. Yeah, I can't give you a protocol here. I mean, if you want to scroll back into probably the first 10, 15 minutes of the video, there was a protocol that I gave that was one of the most extreme or more extreme protocols for PFS. Might be something for you to look at. Dream big. How much mucuna to replenish dopamine? I don't think there's a set number on that. I think it just depends. You have to figure it out. The best way to approach this is to take mucuna to the point of intolerability, so that you know where you can't go any higher than. Like, as an example, I can't take any more than a gram at a time, and even if I take a gram or like 700 every day, that'll eventually build up to the point where I just get anxiety from it. 200 to 500 a day, and I can tolerate that. And I just feel good and like happy and motivated. And so I just take it with Torque, because Torque has 500 of mucuna in it. It's so fucking powerful, dude. But that's like, anything above that, most people can't tolerate it. So I'd say 200 to 500 milligrams daily. Keep it going and monitor where you are. Just watch out for anxiety, because if you start increasing the other catecholamines too much, which you can do from having more dopamine, that comes with anxiety. And it doesn't feel good, brothers. It doesn't. It actually doesn't. Did you guys watch my video yesterday of me running? I'm excited for the spring and the summer to do that every other day. I need it. I feel good doing it. My brain likes it. My body likes it. It's really good. But I took you guys on a run with me from the preparation with some sodium chloride, which is a fucking game changer for me personally in running. Just a little bit, a few miles, down to the city, to park, or to the north side where the Steeler Stadium is, over one of the major bridges into the city, through the city, then back over. It was my most recent video. Go check it out if you want a vlog style of your boy. Will Farrell. That's a funny one. Hard to get labs in my country, but I added an AI to my protocol. Mood and energy became great. Workout's amazing, but libido is absent. Will it take time to recover from excess estrogen in tissues? No. That shit it's probably cleared out by now. Yeah. What if your libido took a shit on an AI, it lowered estrogen too much? At the same time, like, there's no answer to this. So, like, the only thing that we could postulate is that free estradiol gets too low too quick, regardless of what serum does. At the same time, aromatization, like at the target tissue and in the brain, let's just couch it as the brain, is necessary for male libido in most studies. There's like one study of like missing aromatase gene where a guy still had sexual function. Generally, that's not the case. Yeah. I don't do well on lots of AI. A little bit just to bring it down. There's a threshold. Too much, even if the numbers still look fine, I'll lose my libido as well. So it's not that excess estrogen is there. It's probably that the AI lowered your free estrogen too much and you're stopping aromatization in tissues where you need it. This is the problem with aromatase inhibitors, boys. They're not selective at all. There's no good drug to lower estrogen on TRT. Like, good drug. I mean, the best you can get is like a lower dosing of DHT derivative, in my opinion. But still, it's just, it needs to be real selective. And if you could control it, if you're at 38 and you need to be at 28, like, that's real hard to do. Some of my clients, they're so fucking finicky with this that they've got to use estrogen on top of an AI. So they take the AI in the lowest dose as possible, but it still fucking, tanks their libido or whatever, but they need it to be a little lower. And they just take a little bit of estrogen to get it in their sweet spot. Do what you have to do. Do what you've got to do. Brothers, Kyle, what's better for TRT plus? 4 shots every other day? Wait a minute. What? What's better for a TRT plus for 4 shots every other day of 100 milligrams for a total of 400 a week, or 2 200 milligram shots Monday and Friday? Well, 400 milligrams a week is really not TRT plus. 400 milligrams a week is a low to mid-level cycle of testosterone. And the best way to approach that would be, depends on how you respond to frequent injections. It's a lot at once if you're doing, every other day injections. So libido will probably be okay. But I mean, I would do that intramuscularly. If it was me personally, I'd be doing every 3.5 days. Every 3.5 days. If your body, in terms of libido and stuff, responds to 3.5 days. Some people, they need once a week. The libido disappears on just going to 3.5 days. Think about this. This is why people need to understand how variable folks are. People would look at that from the Reddit gossip and be like, that doesn't make sense. Dude, it does. It happens. I have guys like once a week and everything's just good. They go to, any more frequent injections and their dick falls off their body. It's like, because they can't feel it and it doesn't get hard anymore and their libido is shitty. Fucking crazy. So you need to figure out if every 3.5 days is good for you or if once a week is good for you, running a 400 milligram a week testosterone once a week probably wouldn't be ideal in this case because it just might peak you and give you side effects for 2-3 days after injection, after which I think you'd probably be fine. Black Mesa loves prop. Noticing the higher AT is a little tricky for me. Well, what are your symptoms? If you don't have any symptoms, don't do anything for it. But if you are, then you've got to experiment with either Masteron Primo or an AI to see how you can modulate it. Yeah, Kyle's question was a little bifurcated. Easy, what's up, brother? Empower only cowards just sipping prop. I know. And they're idiots. Yeah, Empower, listen, let me just be clear to people. I've promoted Empower Pharmacy for a while. They have fallen off of the wagon. Is that the way? So I sound like a foreigner trying to say an American phrase, Hey, they jumped on the wagon, is it? No. They just, so the first fucking thing the first like pitfall was they stopped prescribing prop. What? Prop's been around since 1950, 1960. Why? And more people are using it now. Why the fuck stop prescribing it? Idiots. They lost clients. Oh, I know firsthand they lost clients. They lost people. So secondarily, Empower stopped also making cream. Like the last 3 or 4 iterations of cream I got from them was from Hollandale. Where the fuck is Empower? Something's going on over there. But yeah, I used to talk Defy up a lot. I am no longer the hugest fan of Defy Medical. I think they're too big or something. I also think there's a bunch of idiots over there, honestly. And just the way that they respond to shit, the way that they don't communicate internally around your situation or your requests for changes on doses or whatever. They're just it's so terrible. These days, I'm not even using a clinic. I'm not. Cream was the last bit, I might go back to a clinic. I probably want to try somebody else just for the fuck of it. Wouldn't be Merrick or anybody. I think it TRT Nation or maybe some the Texas-based clinics. They seem cool. But UGL in the meantime. UGL. My thoughts on Primobolan or Rimabolan, Bayer Rimabolan being continued are, I don't have enough experience with it to really discern much of a difference between, good quality UGL Primo and that stuff. So I'm not worried about it because I also don't use it a lot. Yeah, maybe ChatGPT says that Masteron with Anavar would be somewhat similar to the benefits of Primobolan in terms of anabolism and stuff and estrogen control. I think ChatGPT is probably right about that, or generally right. Yeah, I think that's totally it. However, Anavar is it's less lipid friendly, or it's more lipid deleterious, we should say, than Primo. Yeah. So just be aware of that. And Anavar is not, unless you're taking 5 milligrams a day, it's not sustainable to just keep taking it. Eventually you're going to run into problems, I think. Hector, if I'm on 14 milligrams every day of prop and 250 IU HCG every other day, at what point do you recommend I get my blood test? Look at A2 at its highest. About 6 hours after the prop injection. Yeah. That's when you would see the peak in estradiol. But test it at 5, test it at 7. So you can really see where that peak is. Yeah. Yupper, bro. Michael, supplements to take on TRT, DIM, and zinc for estrogen. If those are working for you, great. P5P Yeah, you got to get that prolactin down, DHEA. All those, yeah. I mean, P5P is just hit or miss and gives people anxiety, and it's not necessary all the time. If you need to lower prolactin a little bit, it's useful. Sometimes helps people's libido just a little bit via more dopamine. I'm not a huge fan of diindolylmethane because it's blocking prostate androgen receptors, which may happen elsewhere. I'm not a fan of diindolylmethane at all. Zinc is useful. Past a certain threshold, it starts lowering estrogen a little much and can also inhibit DHT. But out of your subs here, I think that DHEA is probably the best supplement to take on TRT. It would be DHEA. Yeah. I'll never not take that stuff on TRT. It really helps. Naringin. Thanks for the vid. Yeah, Naringin's a fucking killer compound, bro. Zach tried 12.5 milligrams per vial to lower estradiol and SHBG with TRT cream. Hair loss was becoming evident, but I felt noticeably more fearless. Yes, there's something to the DHT derivatives, especially Proviron, but also in my experimentation, DHT itself, which is the man hormone. Yeah, it's just you feel so resistant to fear and like resistant to like social silent ridicule, like where people are like judging you. You're just like, I don't give a fuck. I could fucking care less. You just are yourself, and it's great. That happens with Proviron a lot. It's oh man. If you want to feel what real confidence feels like high degrees of male confidence, take Proviron. I should start my own compounding pharmacy. Thanks for the super chat, brother. I'm thinking about starting a TRT clinic. Yeah. Where, we'll have MDs on board, obviously, to make the, ultimate prescriptions, but where I will do some of the consults or at least overlook and hire people that are good and have kind of my methodology for dialing people in, as well as bringing in hopefully their own expertise into this scenario. It would be a Pittsburgh-based TRT clinic, but it would be nationwide. So we would just ship, as much as we can, prop, cream, Enanthate, Cypionate if we had to, everywhere across the states. I don't know. I'm weighing the idea. I mean, it'd be a really good lucrative situation. I've got the audience, from a business perspective, I've got the audience to do that. So thinking about it, but not a compounding pharmacy. Not a compounding pharmacy. Do I think Defy is bad? Merrick charged me $400 for 10K IUs of HCG. They charged you $400 for 10,000 IUs of HCG? Yeah, that's terrible. That's robbery. Yep, they robbed you. If Merrick charged you, if anyone charges you, I don't want to like disparage Merrick. I'm sure they're fine. But if they charged you $400 for 10,000 IU of HCG, that is a fucking rip off. Period. Considering that HCG denatures in 3 weeks, whether it's fucking Pregnal or whatever, 4 weeks maybe with Pregnal. It denatures, dude. Yeah, like Zach got smart and got the source list and bought 10 vials for a quarter of the price. That's exactly right. Yeah, I know just what you're talking about because that's what I do. I buy that 10 vial package of 5,000 IU HCG per vial, and it's like $100, $120. And then you have HCG for a decade. It's crazy. Neither would increase prolactin. No. Merrick doesn't believe in E2 control. R.I.P. R.I.P. Merrick. It's stupid. That's stupid. Oh, they obviously haven't. It's like then it becomes an ideological stance because that's not based on practice. It can't be. If you practiced enough and saw people, you can't lie to yourself and say no one needs a Manage E2. Would it be great if people didn't have to? Sure, but I got handfuls upon handfuls that need 0.125 Arimidex every other day, and then their dick works. Anything, and if they remove it, their dick doesn't work. Like, dude, I mean, I don't know why they would do that, but it has to be ideological. It can't be based on practicality. Yeah, bro, TRT clinic in the future, brother. It's going to be called Brother TRT Clinic. I have like a big picture of Hulk Hogan on the on the signage. Brother. Yep. Brother. TRT. Or just go to brother. Where do you go? Brother. I go to brother. Oh, that Ryan guy owns that, right? Yeah, he's the king brother. The master brother. I am Darren. Hey, Ryan, got some labs back. Estrogen's was at 1. What? Is that a ratio? Current protocol. Give me a number there, please, so I can further answer you. Thank you for the super chat. Give me a number on that estrogen rather than a ratio. It's 1 to 30. So if your estrogen was 20, your test was 500, right? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that ratio. Well, that ratio might be fine. What's your number, though? If you can get the number for me, I'll be able to better help you rather than trying to do math on the button. Hit the like button, brothers. Big Brother. Big Brother watches everything. What's the most recent Big Brother fucking shenanigan that I had in my life? Oh, a school bus, okay? Now, well, in Pittsburgh at least, school buses have this program where if you blow past them when they have their stop sign out, which you shouldn't do, then they'll mail you a fine in the mail. That it's not a legal thing if you don't pay it, but it will go to collections, so you should probably pay it. They got me with one. We were heading to an intersection, and I was this car over here, and this bus was coming this way, and the stop sign was only on the left side of the bus, and we were at a 4-way intersection. So to me, considering I couldn't see the stop sign at all, and the lights weren't on at that point, all it looked like was that bus was stopped at a stop sign. So it was my turn to go, so I went. So like, I don't think I was actually in the wrong there. But they took a picture of my car going away, and the license plate sent me the thing and sent me the $300 fine. And that's just, I probably just end up paying it, but I didn't see the thing, and they were at a stop sign. So I probably would win that if I went to court or whatever. But that is a Big Brother overreach, bro. Really? That's a Big Brother overreach. These people now with cameras and digital shit, it's like, they really think they can just get into your life. Unless a fucking cop was there, fuck you. Unless I did something wrong too, which I didn't. But no, man, it's like the getting tickets and whatever through the mail. Give me a fucking human cop that can judge this. Then we're all good. Wendell deep dive on SHBG with Ryan Root drop. Looking forward to watching it. I had Root on 2 months ago, and the audio is fine, but his video was terrible. And I even downloaded the separate files on StreamYard, and I couldn't get it to work or look good. So I don't know. He hasn't reached back out to me. I told him anytime he wants to come and do it. It looks like, though, he did that or something similar to that on another TRT. I think the TRT Hormone channel. I remember like browsing past it and saw him. He's really up on SHBG at the moment, or has been, like talking about it. So one of those things. I don't know. I don't notice it to be that consequential. I just think you manipulate your protocol around SHBG, It's one of the reasons I think long esters injected less frequently tends to work better for people. They boost the SHBG a bit. Brother, have you noticed any vocal changes? Yeah, definitely. My voice might have been the same level of deep, but it certainly wasn't like the same level of bass or something. It just has a more fullness to it, and that's via literal vocal cord changes. Yep. Always been the case, man. Like, even when my test was 900, between 700 and 900, which is where it was naturally, my voice wasn't like it is now. Something about exogenous testosterone and more DHT. DHT itself, like when I go on Proviron or DHT itself, my voice deepens for sure. When I'm trying to do it at its deepest, it sounds deeper. Yeah. Pretty radical, brother. 130. Oh, so you're at 130 picograms per milliliter of estradiol, and you're or is that nanomolars per liter or picomolars per liter? You should include that. Protocol is 125 milligrams, and then they twice a week with 50 prop daily. Brother, you need to look at this sentence. My current protocol was 125 milligrams, and then they twice a week with 50 prop daily. You find me someone that could read that, bro. Find it, and I'll pay you 13 mesquite barbecue chips. I'll pay it to you. I will. All right, boys, I'm going to end the stream. Questions are getting a little scant. Thanks for being with me. 20% off right now. everything on our website. Use the code in the description. It's 20 now. That includes Source List. That includes the Torque Nootropic Stack. It also includes coaching with me. Okay? It's not something I have sent out via email, so I'm only telling a few people because I don't want everybody and their mother going and buying coaching for a 20% discount. I'll be overbooked and whatever. But if you need coaching with me, 20% discount, which will save you a fucking lot of money on these bigger ticket coaching programs. The code is down in the description of this video. We can get on a fact-finding call as soon as Monday, so let's get it done. Let's get it done. Those of you with the budget, those of you business people, serious sexual dysfunction, TRT protocol remodeling, book it, livecortex.com. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. I hope you have a great week moving forward. We'll be doing some content this coming Monday, so look forward to that. Content later on in the week, and then a live stream next Saturday. Like the video if you liked anything we said. Sub to the channel if you're new and you're somehow watching this and not subbed. I'd really appreciate it. Makes a big difference. Otherwise, c'est la vie. Peace out. Talk to you boys in the next one.